You've heard our warnings about artificial sweeteners, but today we're talking about a different sneaky additive that could be the cause of your weight gain. My next guest says you can call them artificial fats. It is a secret ingredient hiding in your favorite foods that could be sabotaging your diet. Joining me is Mark Schatzker, author of the new book, The End of Craving, Recovering the Lost Wisdom of Eating Well. A very well done book, like everything else he does. Listen, we have never really heard the term artificial fats before, but Mark says they've been hiding under our noses this entire time. Can you explain what these artificial fats are? We don't learn about these in medical school. I've not talked about it on the show before, really.
They're totally under the radar. The industry calls them fat replacers, fat substitutes. Essentially, these are food additives that create the sensation of fat with way lower calories.
And where do you find them? Where do you see them?
You find them all over the food aisle. Now, things you might expect, like a creamy salad dressing, that can have fat replacer. Frozen pizza, you might not think it's there, but you find them there. And low-fat yogurt, that's another, prime place.
So why would you put fake fats in yogurt?
Yeah, exactly. This is a great question. It is because we have this idea that our appetite is in some way unintelligent, that we think we want to eat more food than necessary, so we have to step in and take control. And I think this is the big mistake we've made. We are just coming to understand how smart the brain is when it comes to eating. It knows exactly what it needs. And when you get in there and start fooling the brain, I think that's where the problems start to happen.
Yeah, you can't trick Mother Nature.
That's right.
It doesn't turn out well. So we are a country, I think, that is obsessed with fat. So where have we gone wrong by telling people to eat less fat with the belief that less fat in the mouth means less fat in the hips?
That's right. And your brain, in fact, knows what it needs. And when you fool it, your brain says, that's not working, and it doesn't work out the way we think it's going to work out.
So you gain weight.
Exactly.
All right, so about why you taste what you taste. And I'm going to start with sugar because we understand it really well, but it's also well understood by the food industry. So if you take a cube of sugar, remember your tongue is filled with all these taste buds, and all the taste buds are more complicated than we ever thought possible as well. But this is for this purpose, say, you put a cube of sugar on your tongue and something lights up. And it turns on the brain to taste sweet.
Yes, you've got taste receptors on your tongue, you have sweet receptors. Sugar, it fits into these receptors, sends a signal to your brain lights up, you taste sweet. And it works that way also for salty, sour, bitter, and also for artificial sweeteners. That's how an artificial sweetener works.
So take this off, right? Everything turns off again, and you're going to cut sugars out of your diet. So you say, oh, you know what? I'll put artificial sweeteners in there as a replacement. So it looks the same to the body, same parts of the tongue light up. What about the brain?
Yeah, the same thing happens. It's like putting a key in a lock. It triggers that receptor, and the artificial sweetener makes this sensation of sweet happen in your brain.
But do you eat less sweets? I mean, that we don't lose weight with artificial sweeteners.
Well, exactly. They've been very controversial because they don't work the way we think they work.
All right, so let's get the sugar out of the picture here. Now you take fat. When you put that in your tongue, do your receptors light up as well?
No, fat's very different. It doesn't trigger receptors the same way sugar does. Fat we sense with our touch receptors. That's why fat is like a feeling. It's rich, it's creamy, it's smooth, it coats the tongue. It's this property of fat that has made it so difficult for the food industry to imitate.
So I'm fascinated by this. So you still have the brain light up, but not because you taste specific receptors. So how do manufacturers replicate the fat, but with artificial versions?
It's an amazing story. One of the first fat replacers came along in 1979. A chemist at a Canadian brewing company tried to turn whey, that's the liquid that's left over when you make cheese, he tried to turn that into a gel. What he got was this strange gelatinous substance that crumbled like styrofoam, but it tasted fatty. It tasted rich and creamy like cream cheese. So about a decade later, this comes on the market as a food additive called Simpless. And Simpless was quite remarkable. If you added Simpless to margarine, it could take a tablespoon would go from 36 calories down to 8 calories. If you added Simpless to a coffee creamer, that creamer would go from 30 calories down to 20 calories.
With no seeming penalty. It would still taste fatty the way you want it to be.
Exactly. It has that taste fat and rich like it did before.
And how does this affect our weight when you put foods that have artificial fats in them?
That is the central question, because this seems like a win, right? We're worried about too many calories. Isn't this good, going from 36 calories to 8 calories?
Sounds good.
Here's why it's not. Because every time you eat, your brain analyzes what came inside the body. That's why we learn to like fat in the first place. Your brain goes, when I get these rich, creamy foods in my mouth, I get calories. I need calories. That's good. Then one day, it gets this experience of this fatty, rich food, and it goes, I didn't get the calories I thought I was going to get. I got ripped off. And the concern is, how does this part of your brain that analyzes food react when it gets ripped off? It says, I don't want to get ripped off again in the future. I'm going to eat more. And the worry is that is where food cravings are coming from. Your brain saying, I don't want to get ripped off.
So you actually take this theory and put it into practice in your book, looking at a very precise experiment that was done. So walk us through, if you don't mind. This, I think, is going to change a lot of people's minds when you really understand what happens if you try to eat less, for example, fats for breakfast.
So this was a study that was done. They gave subjects, some had a full-fat biscuits for breakfast, and some had biscuits made with a fat replacer. And look at the calories they consumed. This looks great. The group that got the fat replacers ate way less. But guess what happens as the day goes on? Their brain goes, hey, I didn't get what I thought I was going to get at breakfast, and they catch up. Even more interesting, how did they catch up? They ate carbohydrates, because it's like the brain said, there's something not right with fat today, so I'm going to eat carbs.
But it's the worst thing to do.
Exactly. Your brain is smarter than we think, and this is why so much of what we think about how we eat and calories and fake fats and fake sugars, it doesn't work the way we thought.
Plus, these guys have a big smile on their face, and this person's not going to be smiling for very long, because your body is upset and your brain is struggling with that dissonance, that argument that's going on, a civil war, so to speak, in your brain. You can do better. So, guys, what we're saying is go for the full-fat food, right? In moderation, but go for the full-fat food. We are giving you permission. You're going to enjoy it. You're probably going to eat less of it long-term. It's a win-win. So, how can you spot these fake fats hiding in your pantry items? We're going to show you what to look for, and more importantly, what you should be reaching for when we come back. We've been talking about a secret additive that may be the cause of your weight gain. My guest calls them artificial fats. They have been hiding in plain sight because labels can use, well, as you know, tricky language. So today, we are revealing where these fat replacers are hiding in our favorite foods so you know how to spot them. Back to help us understand these phony fats is Mark Schatzker. Help everyone understand, if I'm looking at a label, how do I know what is a phony fat, an artificial fat?
That's a great question, and it's really difficult because you won't see artificial fat in the label. You won't see fat replacer, fat substitute. That Simpless I talked about, that additive, it shows up as milk protein. So it's very difficult to look at the label. There's some big ones you can look out for. Whey protein concentrate is one. Carrageenan is one. Modified starches. But the truth is, there's so many of these fat replacers, I can't keep track of them. So one trick to keep in mind is look for things like low fat or light. Because when it comes to calories, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Good rule of thumb. We put one of our viewers, Julianne, to the task of going through her pantry and bringing some of her favorite foods back for us to investigate if they have fat substitutes.
I work in a busy hotel, so I don't always have a chance to eat a full meal. So I'm going to show you some of the snacks that I bring that I think are pretty low fat and healthy. I have a low fat canned soup. This is Italian wedding, one of my favorites, and especially when it's cold outside. And I also have a Greek yogurt. This is low fat and has blueberries in it today. I also have some tortilla chips, so these are plain. So I don't think you're going to find any artificial fats in any of my selections here.
So, Julianne, what goes into your decision making when you shop for foods?
Well, I'm always looking for something low calorie, low fat, high protein, low carbohydrate, sugar. I worry about the sugar as well.
And you've lost a lot of weight with this effort, but you probably have gained weight and back and forth, because of that same mindset.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Mark, you went through Julianne's food. She's trying her best, like so many viewers are right now. What did you find that she was eating that maybe she could modify to make it easier on herself?
Yeah, we looked at the ingredient lists and looked for additives that appear on known lists of fat replacers. So let's start with this fat-free cottage cheese. We found locust bean gum and guar gum. Probably not stuff you think about when you think cottage cheese, right?
Why would they have the cottage cheese?
Because when you take the fat out, you're taking away that rich, creamy experience, mouthfeel, so they put it back in. Now, if you want to avoid that, there's an easy way to do that. Just get the full-fat cottage cheese.
Which I think tastes fine anyway. It's not a lot of extra calories because it's all sort of fluffed up in there anyway. Okay, next item you found.
Yeah, a healthy cream of chicken soup. Turns out it's got modified cornstarch in it and soy protein isolate. Again, I don't think of that when I think chicken soup.
Especially healthy chicken soup.
That's right. Now, that's not to say you can never eat canned chicken soup again. Just look at the label and keep an eye out for some of these, odd-sounding ingredients.
Yeah, you got the coup de grace over there.
Yeah, check this one out. Nutritional protein drink. We think this stuff is good, right? I should be drinking protein drink, low in calories. We found 5 fat replacers in here, including whey protein concentrate and carrageenan. So my advice is if you want to have a protein shake, protein drink, make it yourself at home. Get protein powder, make it with healthy ingredients.
So what do you think about this, Julianne? All the food you've been eating?
Wow.
Can you even spell carrageenan?
No, I had no idea all of that was in my in my choices here.
And it's not that they're dangerous or bad for you. It's just, do they really get you the extra few pounds off that you desire? From what Mark showed us earlier, I don't think so. I think our body's smart enough and our brains work along with our bodies to take us just where we want to be. What I'm always amazed by is when people lose weight consistently, it's because they started eating real food. Mm-hmm. They felt happy as they were doing it. Right. And I'm worried that some of these ingredients don't make you happy.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
So how do we do it? How do we not lose hope with all these ingredients and keep the foods that we love in our lives?
So look at the label. Shorter labels tend to be better. Keep an eye out for some of these ingredients. Also, don't be afraid of real food. If it said it's got cream in it, it's got real eggs, full-fat milk, that's okay. But also, stop trying to fool your brain. I would way rather people ate full-fat mayonnaise or an actual real creamy salad dressing than always trying to, get the edge. Because here's the thing. Real food tastes better than fake food, and it's better for you.
So what do you think?
Absolutely, I agree.
You're in?
Absolutely.
All right. Keep it up. To understand more on how artificial fats affect our bodies and how to finally curb your cravings, you can check out Mark's wonderful book. It's called The End of Cravings, Recovering the Lost Wisdom of Eating Well. It may change the way you look at your next plate of food.